Good evening. You are watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. His Majesty the Sultan greets His Excellency the President of Eastern Republic of Uruguay on his country's independence anniversary. His Highness Sayyid Yazan bin Haytham Al Saeed, Minister of Culture, Sports and Youth, affirms that the Sultanate continues its efforts to implement joint plans and programs to enhance Gulf youth achievements. And the U.S. approves plasma to treat virus patients while the WHO begins talks with Russia on virus vaccine. Those were the headlines. Now for the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq sent a cable of greetings to His Excellency President Luis Lacalle Pou of Eastern Republic of Uruguay on his country's independence anniversary. His Majesty the Sultan received a cable of thanks from His Excellency President General Michel Aoun of Lebanon in reply to His Majesty's cable of condolences on the victims of the explosion which took place in the harbor of Beirut. His Highness Sayyid Shihab bin Tariq bin Taimur Al Saeed, Deputy Prime Minister for Defense Affairs, received Her Excellency Leslie M. Tsu, U.S. Ambassador appointed to the Sultanate. During the meeting, they discussed the good relations between the two countries and exchanged points of view on matters of mutual concern. The meeting was attended by Colonel, Senior Defense Representative at the U.S. Embassy in Muscat. His Highness Sayyid Yazan bin Haytham bin Tariq Al Saeed, Minister of Culture, Sports and Youth, stressed on the continuation of the Sultanate for the efforts exerted in the implementation of joint plans and programs that will enhance the Gulf youth achievements. This came during His Highness's speech in the 33rd meeting of Their Highnesses and Excellencies Minister of Youth and Sports in Gulf Cooperation Council countries, which was held today through video call. The meeting reviewed the strategic plan of the Ministries of Youth and Sports, as well as approving an obliged daily sports studies class for all the educational stages and establishing a unified database for the distinguished youth projects and initiatives, in addition to GCC countries' efforts in facing the COVID-19 pandemic. The total number of infected cases with coronavirus in the Sultanate has reached 84,509. The Ministry of Health said that the total number of people recovering from the disease is 78,912 cases, with a cure rate of 93.3%, while the cumulative number of deaths amounted to 637. The Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Water Resources signed 2 cooperation agreements with the Industrial Innovation Center. The first agreement relates to the establishment of the Food and Beverage Innovation Unit at the Directorate General of Agriculture and Animal Research. It aims to create a suitable environment for industrial innovation to enable innovators and entrepreneurs to manufacture innovative food products. The second agreement relates to establishing a cattle feed manufacturing unit with the aim of contributing to create a suitable environment for industrial innovations, support emerging companies in this field, and incubating youth projects. The signing of the 2 agreements comes with the aim of promoting economic diversification through innovation and entrepreneurship, taking into account the optimal use of natural resources. Still to come in our news bulletin. The total revenue of 3 to 5 category hotels in the Sultanate fell by 54.5% until end of July 2020. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. The novel coronavirus has killed at least 809,255 people since the outbreak emerged in China last December. At least 23.46 million cases of coronavirus have been registered in 196 countries and territories. Of these, at least 14.87 million are now considered recovered. Yesterday, 4,001 new deaths and 213,866 new cases were recorded worldwide. The United States is the worst hit country with 176,809 deaths from 5.7 million cases. Almost 2 million people have been declared recovered. After the U.S., the hardest hit countries are Brazil with 114,744 deaths, Mexico with 60,480 deaths, India 57,542, and the United Kingdom with 41,429 deaths. Europe recorded 212,958 deaths, Asia 88,490, Middle East 34,497, and Africa recorded 27 deaths, 781 deaths. Just in time for back to school for millions of kids, the World Health Organization has updated its guidance for mask wearing by children, notably saying those 6 to 11 years old should wear them to fight the coronavirus, but that it depends on local factors and other criteria. Also, at the briefing today, Dr. Soumaya Swaminathan, WHO's chief scientist, said they were in discussion with countries or with authorities in Russia to learn more about a vaccine candidate announced earlier in the month, requesting data on efficiency and safety. Meanwhile, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, World Health Organization Director General, underlined the importance of investing in the COVID-19 vaccines Global Access COVAX facility for vaccine research as the fastest way of ending the new coronavirus pandemic and ensuring a sustainable economic recovery. The United States announced an emergency authorization to use blood plasma from recovered coronavirus patients as a treatment for the disease, which has killed more than 800,000 people around the world. Trump claimed yesterday that the plasma therapy shows an incredible rate of success and will save countless lives, but that went much further than his own health officials' cautious welcome of the treatment. Plasma is believed to contain powerful antibodies that can help fight COVID-19 faster and has already been used on patients in the United States and other countries. But the extent of its effectiveness is still being debated by the experts, and some have warned it could carry side effects. Syria's government today blamed a terrorist attack on a gas pipeline near Damascus for a nationwide blackout in the latest such alleged assault on its energy infrastructure. Caretaker Electricity Minister Zuhair Kharbutli said a pipeline explosion in the Damascus area last night led to an electricity blackout across Syria. Kharbutli said the explosion occurred between Adra and Mir, was the sixth of its kind on the pipeline in that area. Meanwhile, U.S.-Syria envoy James Jeffries said today that the United States is still looking into an explosion at a gas pipeline in Syria, but the incident appears to bear the hallmarks of Daesh group. Suspected militants have set off bombs in a southern Philippine town, killing at least 11 soldiers and civilians despite extra security because of the threats of suicide attacks by rebels. A regional military commander said at least 5 soldiers and 4 civilians were killed in the first attack when a bomb attached to a motorcycle exploded near 2 parked army trucks. A second blast, apparently from a female suicide attacker about an hour later, killed a soldier. Nearly 40 soldiers, police and civilians were wounded in the bombings. The military later said a total of 7 soldiers died in the bombings. After a day as a hurricane, tropical storm Marco brought a surge of high water to the Louisiana coast today, setting the stage for tropical storm Laura to enter the Gulf of Mexico and move toward the same stretch of U.S. coast later in the week, most likely as a hurricane. People along the Gulf Coast braced for a history-making onslaught from the twin storms, with many evacuees recalling the damage caused by Hurricane Katrina in 2005 when catastrophic flooding breached the levees in New Orleans and as many as 1,800 people died. Laura's center was skirting Cuba's southern coast today after causing the deaths of at least 11 people in the Dominican Republic and Haiti, while knocking out power and causing flooding in the two nations that share the island of Hispaniola. Despite Marco's weakening, a storm surge warning remained in place from Morgan City, Louisiana to Ocean Springs, Mississippi. A storm surge of up to 4 feet was forecast for parts of coastal Louisiana and Mississippi. DM inaugurated water distribution network in Al Mawalih 11 area in the wilayas of Asib at the Governorate of Muscat. The number of residential units benefited from the project reached more than 950 units. This project is considered as one of the projects package currently being implemented by DM in the wilaya, besides adding more distribution networks in Al Khawd and Al Ma'bela. The total revenue of the Sultanate's hotels in the 3 to 5 category fell by 54.5% to reach 58 million Omani Riyals by the end of July 2020. More details in the following report.
The total number of guests in the 3 to 5-star hotel category reached more than 428,000 until the end of July 2020, recording a decline by 57% compared to the same period of last year. According to the National Center for Statistics and Information, Europeans constituted the maximum number of visitors, reaching more than 156,000, followed by more than 150,000 Omani guests and more than 38,000 Asian tourists. The GCC guests reached more than 32,000. Other Arab guests reached more than 13,000 and American guests reached more than 15,000. It is worth mentioning that hotel occupancy rate reached 29.5% until the end of July 2020. The total revenue of Omani hotels in the 3 to 5-star category reached 58 million Omani Riyals until the end of July 2020. Compared to more than 127 million Omani Riyals for the same period of last year. For the Sultanate of Oman Television, Saleh bin Khalfan al-Rahbi.
This is the Sultanate of Oman Television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main headlines once again. His Majesty the Sultan greets His Excellency the President of Eastern Republic of Uruguay on his country's independence anniversary. His Highness Sayyid Yazan bin Haytham Al Saeed, Minister of Culture, Sports and Youth, affirms that the Sultanate continue its efforts to implement joint plans and programs to enhance Gulf youth achievements. And the U.S. approves plasma to treat virus patients while the WHO begins talks with Russia on virus vaccine. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, it's good night.